guys know what's going on soon. But now, let's introduce INnoVation in the top right-hand corner, playing a best of 5 here in the Into the AlphaX Super Series number 92 against another returning player in the top bottom left corner, our red Protoss from the Freaks. It is Stats. So best of 5 here in this matchup and see what this brings us. This is actually a fun one because two players who are obviously in pretty similar boats. They both returned from the military. They both used to be absolutely top-tier players, championships under their belts, trophies in their cabinets, and players that were absolutely at points best of all time in their race. Maybe not best of all time, but best in their race at certain points in time. 100%. So yeah, when you have both of them coming back, they've both probably been back a similar amount of time. It really kind of puts in perspective kind of a chance for this to just be very interesting. I'd also say, I guess, one last summary is they also kind of left at the same kind of level too, right? They both left as not quite the strongest they'd ever been, clearly a bit demotivated by the fact they had to leave for military service, etc. So maybe not quite at their absolute best when they left, but still good enough to be competitive and to be, you know, placing well in tournaments and to be a threat to anybody they went up against. But not quite maybe the championship caliber players or frequent championship caliber players that they once had been. So just very cool comparison to see these two play. They're going to play a best of 5 TvP here, and we'll see what goes down. And our probe goes on a venture across the map early. There's already a nexus in place as a command center, so we're seeing both players expanding quickly. It's going to become a question of what do we turn these expansions into, what kind of stuff is going to go down. As our Reaper pops out of the barracks, a Marine on the way, and the Reaper will begin to move out and down through into the center of the map. Cybercore, Nexus, all of this being brought up here. And again, the Reaper just on a journey. It's going to be a proxy Stargate from Stats, though, so that goes down to the far right side of the map already. So we are going to get that Stargate up and rolling to begin with. That's going to be our first checkpoint of what Stats wants to get up to here. That's not the Reaper wall off. Okay, well, I mean, we'll figure that one out later as well, I guess. As obviously INnoVation gets in, he'll be able to get rid of a couple of probes here pretty quickly. So 1 probe, 2 probes, 3 probes, actually, as one across the map went down. So 2 probes on this Reaper, though. And that will be actually the Reaper for the moment getting away. It shouldn't be able to escape with the Adept nearby. Good grenade. I actually think that grenade would have been good to hit the Adept. And the Reaper still goes down. Good attempt to escape, but just not quite enough in the end. But there's a Stargate, and obviously INnoVation saw the entirety of the main. Should have noticed there's a missing pylon. Should have noticed that there is no tech in there when there really should have been. Some reasons to be a little bit cautious about what's going to happen next. Reasons to be kind of a little bit kind of intrigued as to what the hell this guy is about to do to you. As obviously the Adept will come across. There is a bunker on the low ground. INnoVation playing very safely there. Just staying very secure on the natural. Not doing anything too ridiculous. As that Adept just shades by and gets into the back of the natural where fires a few shots off, and the Marine already taking some hits and having to back it up. Two Marines back it up. Oracle now flies in from the proxy, and one of the Marines trying to get to the bunker goes down. So now it's 3 dead Marines. Oh, sorry, 3 dead Marines and 2 SCVs. The Oracle having a great time of it. And yeah, just kind of flying in from the side. It was like the hero. He's like, here I am! Gonna clean you guys up, as all of those SCVs on the edge are low as well. INnoVation not even pulling those back. It's gonna be 5 dead workers. Marines are going to finish off the Adept in the back. The Oracle going to come back onto the Marines. We're just losing so many units here. This is an amazing start from Stats. I know it's a proxy Stargate, but even then you're not meant to take this amount of damage to it, right? This is going to be an absolutely ridiculous amount. Is 6 SCVs, 7 SCVs going down. The Oracle getting 1 extra at the very end there. I'm just going to be seeing Phoenix, a couple Oracles joining up to just keep on dealing damage. Honestly, at this point, I'm not sure even what we really do as INnoVation. You've done a lot of work from what you should have been. I guess Stats isn't on the best attack still. He's only just now adding on 2 additional gateways, so it's been quite committed to the Stargate. Like, there's not a Twilight already set to go. The extra gates aren't even up just yet, for example. So I feel like that's definitely an intriguing kind of scenario. Is just going to have a Widow Mines unloading. Do not go across the map, so maybe just trying to set up a bit of a trap with this medevac. Trying to catch some of those Oracles flying in and just clear those out. just got here. What year is this replay from? This replay is from Tuesday, I think. The year 2023. Couple of probes. Return some minerals to the Nexus and just having that third base coming online. So Stats getting that secure pretty much straight away. The starport gonna lift off of the tech lab and make room for another barrack so we can get combat shields started up. And then at the same time, we're going to get the reactor going on the starport so we can begin talking about medevacs and this full, very typical bio setup in these early few minutes. Also, want to blink on the way from Stats, which is also fairly normal. I guess after Stargate, sometimes you don't necessarily play Stalkers, especially when you've kind of built like 3 Stargate units, because then you're kind of playing not the greatest of armies off of a very heavy amount of tech before you even tech to the Stalker force. But the damage you did here, I think it's absolutely okay. If he'd built anything more for the Stargate, still would have maybe just liked to see charge instead. In this case, I think it's going to work out very well. I don't think it's really going to be an issue at all. Five additional gates coming up in the main. 3 Stalkers, Blink +1, all of that on the way out as we have ourselves... Well, like I say, Stats is ready to go. I mean, he's got the blink, he's got everything pretty much that he needs here. He's in a pretty great position. Neatbeat8, thank you so much for the gifted sub. Going out to Al Hicham. Thank you so much for gifting up and appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you, SC2Fool, for the raid as well. Welcome, guys, as we cast some INnoVation Stats. Played a few days ago, casting some replays at the end of our live action today, so... Just covering this best of 5. Enjoy. It's game 1, and Stats did a crap ton of damage with Oracles off of a proxied Stargate early. Expecting INnoVation to kind of just get overwhelmed a little bit. This aggression shouldn't really be that scary to his Stats, who did so much early on. The Raven doesn't have much of a role to play here either, and I guess we'll see what the Mines can do, but I feel like they're not exactly going to be the saving grace of this game just yet either, as our Widow Mine goes off onto a couple of Stalkers. All these mines get cleaned out, and now we're going to go chasing everything else down. You can just see that Stats has so many units, and INnoVation just has to go running for the hills, basically. Big map altitude, so he is going to get away, but Stats, how far is he going to go? Like, how far is he actually going to chase? Because he could just keep on going. There's still more he could get done here. A couple of Raven Order turrets to help out, and that will encourage Stats to decide to back away from this fight. As, hey, Asgul, thank you so much for the Prime sub as well. Much appreciated. Revelation drops onto the Bioforce again, our Stalkers. This is what I mean. Like, you know, if INnoVation hadn't taken so much damage early, this Stalker army cannot stand and fight. And then INnoVation would have had actually kind of a scary push, and I really think what Stats did wouldn't have really worked. In this case, it works. I think it might have just been because, again, INnoVation took so much damage, and maybe that's why Stats chooses to do this. Again, Stalkers and Blink just don't usually come out of a Stargate opening when you've built more than one Stargate unit. You know, if you may build 1 or 2 Oracles, sure. You build a Phoenix as well. Just, you've got to do something early, otherwise the Stalkers just don't stand up. Now the Zealots are here as well. Gonna make this tough for INnoVation, as our Widow Mines are doing good jobs initially, and it's very Marauder heavy, so if we get through the Zealots, the Marauders will actually do very well against the Stalkers, and that's kind of what you're seeing here as these Stalkers get pushed back. Zealots going to continue to charge on through, though, wanting to get back on top of the Marauders. Again, the Marauders just don't clean out Zealots very quickly at all. That is the current problem we have, and yeah, as long as the Zealots here, these Marauders should always be kind of trading badly because they just don't do good DPS. And that's kind of what stops you from just going pure Marauder in your army. You need the DPS of the Marines to clean out Zealot armies, unless, I guess, the Widow Mines do all of the work. Guys, if you, I see a lot of people in chat very excited about seeing INnoVation. If you want to see a really good INnoVation game from him being back, we casted him versus Dark in a qualifier for the WardiTV Christmas and the WardiTV Winter Championship, not Christmas, the other day. I would highly recommend that. Super good series. It's already on my YouTube. It was a really good best of 3. Like, honestly, like, if there's a game I would recommend this week, it would be that one. So, YouTube, Dark, INnoVation. Just go on my YouTube. You'll find INnoVation versus Dark from like 3 days ago. It's really good. Really, really good. 100% worth watching. Extra units warping in here off the prism on the northern side. We do see the Bioforce pulling back to the upper right. The Bio going to stem down. Just going to see a +2 extended thermal lance. We'll be on the way in. A little revelation drops onto Widow Mines and a few Marauders, so pushing out some information here so Stats can decide if he wants to fight or not. INnoVation's army is actually really not terrible, all things considered. He's going to have Zealots in his main base, though. That's going to create some issues. It's not like INnoVation's in an amazing spot or anything. It's just like his army was a lot closer to being kind of decent than I thought it would be. I think a lot of that is probably just the fact that Stats did have a few bad trades running into the third base. Running into a lot of Widow Mines initially definitely caused a lot of pain. Obviously, like I say, these Zealots are just not being dealt with, and the fact that INnoVation still has so many mines, they just kind of got lasered without doing much as well. Stats does have game number 1 in the bag. Just, like I say, got a little bit intriguing. Like, I just thought INnoVation was dead like 100% a minute ago, and he had the kind of army where maybe if like mines went off beautifully, we could have potentially gotten a little bit excited about INnoVation getting back in it, you know? In the bottom right, it is going to be our blue Terran player. It is INnoVation. In the top left, red Protoss is going to be from Afrika. Stats. Afrika Freaks. How come Jonathan went with Wardy instead of simply Ward? Because Wardy is my gamer tag. My last name is Ward. In school, my nickname was Wardy because we're very original in the UK. And then my gamer tag, to simplify it at one point in life, well, everyone wrote Wardy in school with a Y. And at one point, I always was like, man, what if I spell it with an I? And everyone at school was like, that's so dumb. But then when you play games, nothing can stop you, right? So then when I made my gamer tag at some point, I changed my gamer tag. I was like, I'm going to have just Wardy with an I. And there you go. That's why it's Wardy with an I. Did you miss TY playing? Yes. TY series was not long. It was not pretty. It was definitely not a series I would recommend you go back to watch. I would wait until TY plays something else and then watch that, and hopefully it would be kind of cool. Because you really didn't miss anything, honestly. Like, it was not pretty. It was kind of destruction. Exciting that he's back. Exciting to see him, but you really didn't miss anything too exciting. A Reaper on the way out here from the main base. The factory is on the way down in the main as well, as we get all of this settled up and ready to rumble. And yeah, just going to be seeing our Reaper popping out and going to start chasing down a Proby. Just going to grab that early, and obviously our factory coming through, ready to start our expansion. Will be high ground expand. INnoVation has been doing this a couple of games. I've seen of him in TvP outside of this match, and that's one of the things where he's just, being kind of safe on that expansion, getting set up without too many complications straight away. As the Stalker is going to ping through and go after our little Reaper there. Reaper already up into this main is going to drop a grenade, and that first probe is going to go down, but now I think we're going to say goodbye to the Reaper. That will fall, so if it goes down, we actually see the Twilight? No, didn't even get the Scout, which is obviously a bit of a shame, because that's one of the things you would at least hope to get out of the Reaper, and to just obviously have it be not even getting the Scout or confirmation of it being a Twilight. A little sad, compared to maybe what you would have liked to have seen. Blink, Warp Gate, all coming through. As that Widow Mine is going to keep this Stalker back for the moment as well. 3 mines load into the medevac and a boost out the left side. And as they go across, INnoVation's chance to maybe deal some damage in these early stages. Stalkers don't have blink yet. It's one of the benefits of going for the factory so quickly before the expansion. This mine drop hits early, you don't have blink. Makes it a lot more difficult to defend because now the medevac actually gets all the way in, is able to get the other mines off in the main base, deny mining time on 2 different mineral lines. Don't think we can save them mines. I think this medevac's best staying away for the moment. Best trying to make an escape further down the line when your opponent's maybe actually forgotten about it more so than anything else right now. And the Ravens, the next part of this harassment game. See these Ravens going across the map so frequently nowadays. It's become super popular as Stalkers get through. Tank is about getting siege. Here comes the auto turret going down. That probe and get knocked down. Maybe get a couple. So yeah, good harassment. You force the probes away again. And that obviously adds up a lot as well when this mining time gets denied repeatedly throughout the course of a game. That really does add up. So that's something which will be quite happy about seeing here if your name is INnoVation, or if you're just an INnoVation fan in the chat as well. Pushing the observer back, and then the stalkers try to get the marine, but the marine gets away too. It's a fun little interaction, isn't it? Seeing this Raven again, just backing it up, escaping away to the corner. It's so good at just keeping units in a bad place right now. These stalkers don't want to be here. They have to be here. They want to stop the Raven from coming through and getting more probe kills. You can't just let your probes endlessly die, right? That would in fact be bad. Believe it or not. And sometimes you see in games lately where the Raven has like 17, 18 kills. You're not meant to win those kind of games when the Raven can find that amount of value. Storm about to complete. Stimpack gonna finish up soon as well, as that bio will move out the front. Really wanted that observer, doesn't quite get it as we see. The Stalker's getting chased down. And that bio moving across the map. Away we go. Couple of tanks included as well. Obviously, Storm is a factor, and INnoVation has to be careful about that. Anti-armor missiles split away against. Great job from Stats. Minimizing the impact of this Raven. Here we go. First Widow Mines honestly don't do much on the Zealots. And the Zealots back it up. Here come our Storms out of the prism. INnoVation just has too much left over, unless there's more Storms available. I didn't feel like the Widow Mines did that much, though. I know it just had so much going in, and to be fair, the Zealots, I guess, did get kind of blasted by the tanks, even if tanks aren't the best against Zealots. The tank still did a decent amount of damage, a decent amount of splash to start off with. And now this Bio Army of INnoVation still actually on the map, and I don't blame him. Still seems pretty reasonable as our medevac's going to boost into the main base. Going to the back there where they can unload, and this actually saves the Raven in the back corner as well, by the way. Now the Raven actually has a way to potentially get out, or even just drop a couple of auto turrets to help out here again. It's actually a lot of damage. Storm goes more on the medevacs, but we're just going to boost up the front, and this army's going to start picking its way through. Well, the one immortal that was left in defense is obviously not enough, so this army does very well. And would it be even better, I feel like, if the Widow Mine hadn't blown up some of the bio there, but the job is going to be a good one, and INnoVation is going to tie this series 1-1 with a nice aggressive push here on Grezvan, and just really moving his opponent around. Game 3, and we're starting off in the Blue Terrans corner of the map. This is INnoVation. Tying it up. Some good solid play from him against the Protoss player in the top right. In the red, it is Stats. Probe on its way out down to the bottom side of the map. Is are we going to proxy again? And this is an earlier pylon, right? From last time. Is there possibly a world where we proxy without even a nexus on the natural? And we go super aggro? It looks like we might. Okay. Our second gateway, maybe? So we're just coming through, factory coming up. And here is the Stargate on the way. Again, this is just going to be without a Nexus just yet, so quite the aggressive play from Stats at the moment. As our Reaper comes to chase the Zealot down. Command Center building in the main base from INnoVation. Seems like he's going to be in a pretty safe place to start out with. Not going to be in too much trouble. Like, he's going to have Marine production. He's already building a mine, actually, which should help him out a lot as well. Reaper is going to get rid of the Zealot, and now the Void Ray building up on the side of Stats. Warp Gate about halfway done. Yeah, with the Void Ray, like I say, with it being in one base, it definitely always felt as though it was going to be that little bit more aggressive. The Void Ray absolutely defines and decides that this is going to be a little bit more aggressive. And so away we go as Void. Just continuing up on the Stargate, and well, INnoVation is going to have a nice time defending just one base. Not like he has to try and defend the low ground, but he isn't really building much to deal with the Void Ray, I guess. Right? Medevac doesn't really do much there. The Widow Mines can be nice, obviously. Stats proxies the batteries. This build isn't as popular anymore because the batteries start with half HP when not next to a Nexus, so not as good as it used to be. As obviously Widow Mine will get burrowed. Our Marines put some damage onto the Void initially. And it's definitely not a bad map for this because obviously you do have this kind of access point with the ledge on the low ground, allowing you to kind of heal up while you deal damage in important places in the main base. To finish off the initial reactor here, we are building a Viking. Again, INnoVation getting into units that can help defend this. A second Void Ray showing up. He's also going to invest into Magfield, power up the Cyclones that he's going to use as a way to help him defend this attack. We'll get rid of a probe and looking for more. As the Widow Mine actually goes off, grabs a unit at the front. Now we can maybe kill off that Widow Mine. The Marines going through to fight against the Void Rays. The Viking getting some extra shots off. Voids need to get healed back up. They don't want to go too low. You want to make sure that they're savable. They're meant to be saved in this build. If you start losing the Void Rays, you really lose the power that you get to eventually. The Vikings will get rid of a Void Ray and just going to be seeing the Void Rays continue through. A Widow Mine not going to connect onto a Void Ray just yet, so Stats staying out of reach. I mean, as time passes, though, I feel like INnoVation is not losing enough to be in trouble. Which means that stuff like the, Cyclones getting online, etc., will really improve his chances of defense, and he's going to have enough to really make those units meaningful, right? So really like where it's going in that regard as a Cyclone. Going to move forward just a little bit. Not going to commit just yet again. Last thing you want is the Cyclone to be too far forward, because the moment you go too far forward, you're going to lose that Cyclone very quickly, and then you're obviously down kind of a unit that's really meant to help you defend. The batteries didn't come online in time, and that Void Ray falls. You do lose a single Viking. There's the Widow Mine. Okay, I was going to say the Cyclone going down is kind of bad too, but the Widow Mine makes up for it. Now a second Void Ray has fallen, and Stats is just not breaking through this position. No battery energy left. Another Void Ray falls. This game falls for Stats. INnoVation just defends, and this entire build just does not work the way it was kind of really initially meant to. GG. I mean, fun games there, this TvP between INnoVation and Stats. So many people in chat so happy INnoVation's playing again. So awesome to see that so many people are so excited about it. I think we need in StarCraft right now, like a little bit of like excitement and hype and stuff. Probe will drop a gateway down into the main. Double gas building in the main base here from INnoVation, so getting that online, just going to be seeing the gateways about to finish up. And again, just INnoVation, a lot of these double gases delaying the initial expansion, taking that a little bit more slowly. That's been a big part of how he's been setting up. Who has the Inno mode? Oh my god. And you're just actually subbed to INnoVation? When was the last time INnoVation streamed? Holy crap. I don't even remember ever seeing that emote. Jeez. Maybe it's just been that long. Just been so long. Over 2 years ago. You haven't watched SC2 long enough to know these guys as anything but men, myths, and legends. That's actually kind of crazy, right? That actually is like astounding to me that we have people who are just so new still to watching the game that someone like INnoVation is like you say, like a myth and a legend. Like, you've heard of him, people talk about him, but you never got to see him play. Well, obviously you can go watch VODs, right? But like, it's wild. You never lived through the INnoVation dominance, the INnoVation parade pushes, the INnoVation SEV pulls. And it's kind of cool that people are still newly attracted to SC2 in that way, right? I mean, to me, that just means that SC2 is a good freaking game. Still getting people to watch. Reaper is jumping into the main. A little grenade goes down, and the Adept will give chase. The Reaper taking a couple of shots off the Adept, and the Reaper is stuck. He's going to die, so at least gets the full scout. Obviously, unfortunate to go down, but there's no way out with the Reaper wall-off in place here on this map. Maybe you can, punish the Reaper wall-off later with a bit of a push, but for now it works out perfectly for Stats. Adept will shade on down to the bottom. The INnoVation still has yet to take his natural expansion because he's been expanding up on that high ground for the moment, so working through that. Depot will lower, and we get ready to maybe come down here. We're going to have a Cyclone, and the Medevac will probably take some of these units across the map, so wait to see what is going to go. 4 Marines and a Cyclone could be a way across. So first Adept kill, there's no way the Cyclone gives up that Adept. No reason to. Second Adept obviously will shade away because he doesn't want to risk the Cyclone just turning back around and locking onto it, because that would be another guaranteed kill for the Cyclone. So INnoVation clears those units out and now has the freedom to lift up into the medevac and to go across the other side if he does so wish, if that's what he really wants to try and do. And there's not really anything wrong with that plan. If that's how he wants to try and do it, that's how he can try and do it, as our orbital command comes across. We'll land over into the natural. Robo facility gateway, Phoenix. Was continuing up as well. There's our warp gates. Coming up to completion too. Our few Marines will continue to the low ground. And there goes the tank. Another couple of units making their way across. The Phoenix moving around as well. Some portion of the army making its way out across the top right side. Robo facility and the Phoenix are producing still from stats, and just going to be seeing the Phoenix, couple of them already heading up down the bottom side. See what they can do. We have a little bit of a lock on, and the Phoenix taking some damage. Our Marines move forward as well as these Marines come back in. Just going to go after the warp gate. Like I say, knocking down this Reaper wall off, the wall off that keeps the Reapers out early. It's the reason your Reaper died. Take revenge, INnoVation, you know. Show this Protoss player what happens when you make your Reaper go down. Tank is, I don't want to say intercepted here. I mean, the Adepts kind of get in the way of it coming across, I guess, and it actually causes the other units to pull back, allowing this tank to go down. Good little 1-2 play by Stats. I mean, obviously you don't do a ton of damage as an Adept on a tank, and the tank does survive. It's obviously the fact that you killed the tank in the front, at least that makes up for that a little bit, I suppose. Phoenix will lift up the siege tank now, so we are going to kill it off in the end, and the Phoenix able to secure a couple of kills actually against the Viking, a couple more shots on the medevac. We lose one Phoenix, but I mean, we killed off all the tanks here, and look at INnoVation stim time and stim combat +1, all on the way now, but so late. I mean, you're talking about 8 minutes for the bio upgrades to be done. By then, Stats is going to be on a pretty, you know, he's going to have Colossi, he's going to have the Phoenix support in that Colossus. It's going to be a pretty good setup from Stats. Not necessarily sure that something INnoVation is easily going to be able to work against or to work through it all. Feels like that might be kind of difficult. Bit of mine just burrows up behind the barracks. Makes another one as well. It's cute to hide those mines when you've obviously got Phoenix that are likely to dive into the main to try and find damage as well. Like right now, and you don't see this Widow Mine until you get there, and you take a big bit of splash damage. So actually good positioning and good idea from INnoVation. Cute ideas with the mines just to try and make it as difficult as possible for these Phoenix to do what Phoenix love to do, which is to fly around the base and harass. They do catch 2 Widow Mines there though, and unfortunately no more damage being dealt. No burrows allowed. Observer gets picked off too, so we're just going to finish that up and at least take some of Stats' vision away so you can't see where this army is moving at every moment in time. Colossus wandering around the natural expansion. CC coming up at the front of the natural. Forge in the gateway. Finishing up also. As Colossus pops. Being on a bit of a wander apparently as it comes all the way around the natural. And yeah, INnoVation starting to move out a little, but you know, all said and done, where we at in this game? There's a couple Colossi out, we're finally on them bio upgrades. Don't think the Bioforce will do much pushing in on a pretty hefty Widow Mine count, which is nice against the Phoenix, but can also backfire if the Phoenix drag those mine shots onto the bio and cause the friendly fire. So that can also definitely be a problem as that army of INnoVation makes its way around the right side. Is there a chance to jump on this? There's only 4 Zealots. I kind of feel like, you know, this is the kind of fight I take. Yeah, let's go. INnoVation decides he wants to do the same. He takes a long time to get through. Well, he kind of hit the sentry but didn't kill the sentry. So then, obviously, you have the Guardian shield up that entire time, and the Zealots are kind of being fought against. I feel like if you go for that, you go for the Colossi, right? Like, you just look to get... If you get rid of one Colossus, immediately all the damage that comes after is going to be that much less. I think the Colossus is the best target you get. And if you don't get the Colossus, it's probably a bad idea to dive anyway. I guess in the end this wasn't as committed as I thought it might have been from INnoVation, where he didn't lose that much while not really succeeding. Am I just a little bit sad that he didn't get more damage? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I just feel like going straight for Colossus might have been the play there. He really didn't get anything at first. Anyways, we do have the Templar now coming out. Gravitic Drive on the way, so that Prism's going to be faster and speedier all over the place. That's going to create some drama and problems here as well. Just coming around the left side and just going to have a Bio Army figuring out where it wants to put itself very shortly too. And the Colossi, the Archon still gathering up on the top, and well, there was a chunk of ghosts on the way out of the main. Try and see if they can help defend this Zealot attack as the Prism hits the main. Zealots start to run through, and it's where INnoVation, you have to defend these things, right? You can't just let this go run rampant, because if you don't deal with it, more Zealots warp in, and then you just don't have any production. All your reinforcements again picked off, and it's just absolute utter mayhem. Unfortunately now the Prism's kind of a little bit stuck, and the Vikings are going to be able to clean it out, so even Prism speed doesn't get you out of that corner, believe it or not, as INnoVation needs to not run into this, but this is a little awkward. I guess there's nothing to punish the medevac, so we just lift and leave. Back into your main, or even over towards your third base, however you want to try and consolidate a defense. Third base obviously makes sense, get in touch with everything else. And this army of stats continues to step away. Is INnoVation going to move out? Wardy, is the INnoVation versus Dark on my YouTube? Yes. It went up like 2 or 3 days ago. EMPs across this army. Immortals and Archons getting blanketed, but is it just too many Zealots? The Vikings aren't going to get rid of any Colossi. They were sat fighting Phoenix, which is obviously not really the way to cope with this. Every Viking goes down with Colossi left over. They're going to continue to deal a bunch of damage. I don't think INnoVation can stop right now. I was going to say, this might have to be an SCV pull into this army, but there might not even be... Well, it definitely won't be enough. I mean, if you want a chance of being okay here, I guess you just do it anyways, right? But, yeah, there's really good EMPs, just not really the proper way of dealing with the Colossi. The Vikings kind of derping over all the Archons, getting blasted down, and also just attacking into Phoenix. The Vikings need to decide if they're going to target through the Colossi, or, then if you're going to fight Phoenix, you need to be kiting the Vikings, because they have to survive so much longer, because you have to go through the Phoenix, then the Colossi, and obviously that wasn't the case if the Vikings were just left there kind of, stranded, underneath Archons and next to Phoenix. So, yeah, I think the Vikings weren't really info on what tournament it is. It's also in the bracket command, as we have in the top left. Our Blue Terran, last map of the day. It is INnoVation. And in the bottom right, it's going to be stats. Sorry, no worries. I more meant to just point out that if you wanted more information, it was in the bracket command, or as to what it is in general. But then I started saying tiles, like, actually it doesn't say in the tile. Not what tournament it is, anyways. Yeah, this was just played a few days ago. And into the Alpha X event. They won very frequent show matches and little 4-player events and stuff. As we have stats and, going to battle one final time today. And boy, do I hope that they both just return and decide to go committed into like a whole bunch of like StarCraft 2, and we just get to see these guys battle it out in a bunch of different tournaments over the next year or something. That'd be amazing. Fingers crossed. One of the amazing things I find about Stats and Inno having been to the army and now coming back is that I know military service is like only a 1.5 years now compared to it was longer before, but it really feels like we never really stopped talking about players like Stats and INnoVation. Like a lot of the time these players would come, people would come back and be like, oh my god, that guy, that's really cool, I remember him. It's like, that's so sick. Like, it feels like Stats and INnoVation were always still talked about, like, the kind of, you mentioned, like, some part of kind of like a play that's kind of like this, or Stats were so good at that, or remember when Inno did. I feel like that happened a lot more with these guys than a lot of the players that go to military and come back. And obviously, That's just the sort of caliber of players they are, so it makes sense. And just wonder if that's maybe just me, or if other people kind of feel like that as well, because I feel like the stats in OTY, like this class of players parting that went to the military around that time and are now beginning to return, to me, they are all those kind of players that are just... And I guess maybe it's just because of when they went, it means that they were successful enough to stay in StarCraft 2 and, you know, justify putting off the military that long in the first place. And also, I guess we're also at the point where anyone that wasn't as great or as talked about in SC2 probably had already left, so they also weren't going to the military anymore. So yeah, I guess it's kind of that. That's interesting. As the Reaper gets rid of the probe that was nibbling the SCV, the Adept's coming across the map and going to a Stargate opening from Stats. Try and pick up a W here in game number 5. The Adept clearing out a Reaper. And a couple of Marines going to come through with the Reaper. Widowmine as well. Push forward, and just going to see that Widowmine going to get burrowed up on this high ground. Reaper comes out over the far right. We're heading towards the natural expansion, and it's going to be seeing it get cleaned up, so really not picking up too much information before going down, unfortunately. Every time the best Protoss of Legacy of the Void comes up, Stats names have to surface. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've had so few Protoss players that, like, it's always just between Stats, Zest, Hero, and Classic, right? And Classic was very good, but probably the least impactful. Hero was very, very good, and so was Stats, and then Zest had some crazy runs too. It's hard to really judge between those guys, right? Yeah, they're just very popular players. That's very true too, right? Just super popular players as well. That makes sense. Phoenix continuing to pour out. This is just going to be them stacking up and waiting to reveal themselves, wait for any aggression to maybe fly in. Would be nice, pick off a free medevac or so. It's actually going to be a Raven early, and we'll see if the Raven goes across the map. That's obviously a super freebie if the Raven flies into a bunch of Phoenix. Even if the Raven stays at home, it can often be times difficult to keep the Raven alive against the Phoenix. So obviously the Phoenix will be happy if they can find that. Even if you trade out a Phoenix for the Raven, it's usually one of the few times I'm okay with seeing a Phoenix go down, because the Raven is such a high value pickup. As the Observer comes along. What about Parting? Well, I think Parting has obviously got a lot of fans. I think Parting has more fans. Like, I think Inno, Stats, and Sue are very popular, like, in Korea and some other places. Parting was very popular with the Western fans specifically. Like, INnoVation was, like, the most popular player, like, in China, for example, I think. More or less. Like, he was super popular there, for example. Obviously, amongst Western fans, like, Parting is people we all player we all love because of his stream. We've got Hero. I mentioned Hero, but Hero also didn't have like the massive fan base. Like, actually, I feel like Hero is more popular now than he was before the military. Maybe that's controversial. Like, he was very good before military, but I don't feel like he was as popular as like a Stats or as popular as like an INnoVation. Actually, I feel like he's now more popular because he's being the face and the hope of Protoss. And now people are like, hell yeah. And he is very fun to watch. And he was... But back before, he was actually like... Nowadays, everyone's like, man, Hero's aggression's so cool. In the past, people would be like, man, Hero, he's so freaking cheesy. Why can't he just play like Stats or something, you know? It's almost like the perception of how he's played is... They're seeing him play the same way, but the perception on that's changed, right? Yeah, that's another interesting conversation. We had really good conversations today, Twitch chat. You've been great. Alright, Marines obviously defending against the Phoenix there as, well, I mentioned keeping the Raven alive. That Raven is alive still. It's hidden. Ways to defend your Raven, friends. Put it in the back of your base and hope the Phoenix have no reason to go there. I mean, it's not a bad plan if you want to make sure this Raven stays alive against all these Phoenix. It's not a bad place to put it. Like, if it's with the army, it's probably in more danger than being hidden in the back corner. Because if you see the Phoenix going there, you have time to start bringing the Raven away anyway. It's just kind of funny that that's how the lengths INnoVation is going to actually save this Raven. But it's not wrong. It's kind of the right play. I don't think I've seen anyone else do that. It's almost ridiculous, but I like it. And also, he's not revealed it, so it's also possible Stats doesn't know about the Raven. So it actually has potential to be a bit of a surprise when he does bring it with the main army and Matrix as a Colossus or two. He could potentially get more than he would usually get because Stats has just never known about it, because Stats never scouted early, because he was keeping the Phoenix back at home to, launch as a surprise attack himself. Very Inno thing to do. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Actually, it really is. It's like INnoVation's like, man, Phoenix is so dumb they can fly in and kill my Raven. I have to go to this extreme to be able to keep it alive. You know what? If you told me a player did this and that was what they said about it, like I could 100% see that being INnoVation. The one guy is just like, this is freaking ridiculous. Puts the Raven like 2 miles away from the main. Push through the center from Stats. A group of Colossi are on an adventure. We do see a Nexus in the top right-hand corner. And the Bioforce continuing to gather up just on top of this third base. So, gathering that there. We see the single Colossus going to load up into the prison. Nexus in the upper right. Prism continues around the top. It's going to be seeing a couple of missile turrets will come down around the edges and get those in place as our Ghost Academy is going to be about halfway done. A few of the Vikings are coming out, Marines and 2-2 upgrades. All of this producing right now is, yeah, I mean, pretty passive from Inno. He's not really moved out that much and he's been kind of on the defense. Does give Stats a lot of abilities to do what he wants to, though. He's stimming into the main for the prison, but there's a massive army that's going to hit his third base, and I don't think you can get away with stimming that much to the main when this army's over here. I know you want to deal with these odds before they become a problem. He did buy himself a bit of time as the Raven shows up, drops the anti-armor missile. He bought himself a bit of time with the bunk, and he loses only 7 SCVs. That seems okay. Wasn't really all that bad in the end. I love this upward expansion from Stats, by the way. The upward fourth base just to the top right corner, because it really gives him a very good attack path just along into the Terran third base. Usually you see Protoss players taking more of like a, the pocket expand as a fourth base at the very least, but yeah, this linear expansion also stops a lot of kind of dropping between the bases, so it's becoming more and more popular, I think, with the Protoss players recently. INnoVation stims for the hallucination. He's like, no! Finally I kill a Colossus and it wasn't even real! Protoss! Again! There is, I wish I could just make a fake Raven and just get you to kill that one. Stats pulls back to the bottom right. Again, a couple more disruptors coming out. The 2-2 upgrades are working for Stats. Inno has a good upgrade lead with 2-2. I mean, that's not uncommon when you're playing Phoenix Colossi to be behind on upgrades, because what you're doing early in the game is so tech-heavy with Phoenix, then Colossi. You often kind of bypass the upgrades until you go Double Forge later in the game. So it's not weird to see this comp be behind on upgrades. It is just something to then remember when these fights happen, that INnoVation is more naturally in a little bit of a better spot going into these engagements, basically. Refinery's going to go down. We've got some Zealots going to run in from the right-hand side. Going to come through here as the Zealots go in and pick away at the turret and everything. So just storm, again, the setup on this fourth base tonight. Again, good bunker. It's choked up as well, so it's going to be difficult for the Zealots to do anything on the third base. A handful of SCVs, but when you consider how many Zealots it wasn't really worth the SCVs that you killed. Sometimes it's worth it if you pull the Terran back, you force them to turn home. In this scenario, when the Terran's already back at home, it's really not much of a commitment for them to just defend this. It's really not an issue, right? Just easy defense. No problem at all. Bunker stays set up on this top side. Just going to be seeing our Fusion Core, plus 2 ship weapons, and the 3-3 upgrades. Building on the engineering base. Shadow Strike coming up from Stats. Definitely getting into a bit of a macro game here. You know, everything of this series so far has been very much so a very 10-minute kind of focused game, or a little bit less than that. This one's really getting into a little bit more of a macro kind of twang, so I'm down for it. I'm down to jive and see how we go. We have the Stargates all coming up. The cannons being brought in. That lone Viking ventures out. What's the pathing on the SCV on the gas? What, in this one? Because the bunker's there in the depot. If the depot was lowered, they would go this way on the right side, but because of that... yeah, they're taking a bit of an adventure. Zelt's running in. Meanwhile, Vikings are trying to zone the army of Stats in the middle of the map. Extra Liberators are producing Marauders as well. Advanced Ballistics being brought into play. Our carriers are producing too, and that's the thing. INnoVation's had such a passive game here that Stats has just kind of left to do as he wishes, and that right now is saying, oh, I want to build carriers. Well, go ahead and build carriers, Stats. INnoVation ain't going to stop you. You know, he ain't making any move to get in your way of, you know, between you and carriers. You do what you want right now, and that, like I say, kind of is the problem. You're letting the Protoss get up to this major army, and you're getting to libs and stuff, which is cute. In fact, I'd love it for INnoVation if Stats wasn't building carriers. Yeah, it's just been one of these games where INnoVation clearly hasn't felt like there's been a chance to move out. So he's kind of just stayed back, but at some point you've got to do something. And like I say, the libs are definitely a tech up, but the problem is the libs are kind of like the final stepping stone to late game almost for a Terran, whereas the carriers are the late game for a Protoss. Now, obviously, as a Terran, you kind of do just end up on, you know, Lib Viking Ghost super late game in TvP. So I guess it's not bad. It's just, you know, as you kind of say, haha, I've got my late game tech. I prefer the Protoss late game tech, you know? You get a massive carriers up. I'm kind of feeling that as we are going to see two armies on two different sides of the map, so this is going to get a little funky. Vikings land to speed up the base trade and to kill off some extra probes as they retreat away. Obviously, the INnoVation, the first strike, but there's going to be a defense here. Oh, is there? Well, the Phoenix can pick their way through the Liberators, but the Liberators are getting rid of some of the Archons initially. Man, they didn't siege up far enough forward. Another step or two, and they would have protected the Planetary from the Archons. INnoVation is now pulling back. The top right base of Stats still alive. INnoVation doesn't go via that base on the way home. Well, it wouldn't really be on the way home. But he doesn't go and deny that, so going to let that live. He would love to catch that army of Stats. It's very weak right now. But obviously, I think if he starts to move further over there, Stats just presses the recall button and gets home. In fact, he just did press the recall button. Now INnoVation has Stats' army back at home, and this force is not something you can suddenly just jump on any longer. That's obviously going to make this a whole lot more difficult. Disruptors, Colossi coming across and just going to be seeing the force here of INnoVation going to work its way down to that low ground. I mean, the libs are great for pushing into certain positions like this, so in that regard, we do actually have not so bad of a situation. And anti-armor missile hits every single carrier. And INnoVation actually fight those carriers. I mean, it's not like he has no Vikings. It's fairly plausible, honestly. The space goes down. Honestly, just a shame that top right is still up, because otherwise Stats would be starved of money. That could be how INnoVation just wins outright if Stats can't keep rebuilding on the back of this. INnoVation just chips away. Obviously, Inno lost his left side base, but he still has 4 bases coming up. Carriers is going to push on forward. All of these Liberators are going to start going down. This is the moment where you need to have the damage against these carriers or not. And it seems like INnoVation does not. The Interceptors are going crazy. And while a lot of everything else of Stats died, the carriers are the one thing that stands strong throughout this. And so these carriers just push all the way across the left-hand side. They're going to chase that army down. And INnoVation, the problem is once those Interceptors all get out, he doesn't have a way to deal with the carriers or to stop them. He doesn't have the Viking count to shoot down the carriers fast enough. And yeah, here come the Interceptors again. That's going to find some of the Vikings before even, you know, reinforcements show up onto them. And INnoVation being chased. The supplies are very even. I just don't see INnoVation with the, you know, composition to actually fight this amount of carriers. Yeah, this is looking as though we're going to see... Well, I mean, just there's so many freaking carriers, guys. There's just so many of them. Interceptors are going everywhere. STVs are dying, and INnoVation did not win the big fight that really mattered at the end of this. GG's. Stats wins the series 3-2. Very fun match. It's so cool to see these guys playing against each other again. Just say that one more time.